Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going deep on something I know a lot of you are curious about: CBD oil for pets. We all love our furry friends and want to make sure they're living their best lives. And with CBD being such a hot topic these days, it's only natural to wonder if it could benefit them too.
Absolutely. It's definitely gained a lot of traction lately as a potential wellness option for pests. And luckily for us, we've got some great resources to tap into today. Plant-based Remedy and Leaf Organics, both based in the UK and super focused on natural remedies.
Perfect. So we've done the digging for you. No need to wade through tons of articles yourself. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of how it might help our furry friends, let's define what we're dealing with here. What exactly is CBD oil?
So CBD stands for cannabidiol, and it's a naturally occurring compound found in the hemp plant. Now, the key thing to remember here, and this is a big one we hear from pet owners a lot, is that it's non-psychoactive, meaning it won't get your pet high.
Okay, that's definitely reassuring. I know that's a big concern for a lot of us, myself included. So how does it actually work then? We keep hearing about this thing called the endocannabinoid system, but honestly, sounds a bit complicated.
I know it sounds very scientific, right? But it's actually pretty straightforward. This system, often just called the ECS, is present in all mammals, humans, and our furry pals alike. Think of it like your pet's internal balancing system. It works behind the scenes to regulate a whole bunch of essential functions, things like mood, sleep, appetite, even how they perceive pain, all influenced by the ECS.
So it's less about CBD directly fixing a problem and more about gently nudging the body towards balance.
Exactly. And that's what a lot of people find so fascinating about it. It's about supporting the body's natural systems. Now, both plant-based Remedy and Leaf Organics suggest that CBD oil might be able to help with a whole range of issues in pets.
Okay, let's get into some of those potential benefits. One that I'm particularly interested in, especially as my dog is getting older, is pain management. Could CBD oil actually help with things like arthritis?
Yeah, that's one of the areas where there's been quite a bit of buzz, and the early findings do seem promising. Plant-based Remedy highlights CBD's potential anti-inflammatory properties, which could be key for providing relief from that chronic pain.
So for dogs with achy joints or recovering from injuries, it might offer some much-needed relief. That's incredible if it's true. What about anxiety? I've heard whispers about CBD helping with that in pets too.
Absolutely. Just like us, our pets can experience stress and anxiety, whether it's from loud noises, being separated from us, or even just those dreaded vet visits. Both sources we have today suggest that CBD oil might be able to promote a sense of calm, helping your pet cope better with those situations. And if you want to go deeper on this, Plant-Based Remedy has some really good resources on this on their website, www.plantbasedremedy.co.uk.
Oh, bookmarking that for later. Now, I do have to ask about the legal side of things, especially for our UK listeners. There's a bit of a gray area when it comes to CBD for pets in the UK, right?
That's right. It's definitely important to be aware of the regulations. Leaf Organics is very upfront about this, stating that the UK's Veterinary Medicines Directorate, the VMD, hasn't authorized any CBD products that are specifically marketed as pet-specific.
So what does that actually mean for pet owners who are curious about trying CBD for their furry friends? Does that mean it's completely off limits?
Not necessarily. Leaf Organics also clarifies that it is perfectly legal to give your pet CBD if it's been prescribed by your vet. That's always the best first step. Have that conversation with your vet about your pet's specific needs and explore those options with them.
That makes sense. Always consult with your vet before starting any new supplement or treatment plan for your pet. So let's say you've had that chat with your vet, you've gotten the green light, and you're ready to explore CBD oil options. What should people be looking for? I'm guessing not all CBD oils are created equal?
You're absolutely right. Both Leaf Organics and Plant-Based Remedy emphasize choosing a high-quality organic CBD oil that's specifically formulated for pets.
Okay, that makes sense. But what does that mean in practical terms?
Yeah.
Like, what should we actually be looking for on those labels?
Transparency is key here. So look for products that are free of pesticides, herbicides, and unnecessary additives. And don't be afraid to ask for a lab report.
Lab reports.
Yeah. Reputable brands will have their products tested by an independent lab to verify the purity and potency of the CBD oil. Those reports can tell you exactly what's in the product and, more importantly, what's not in it, so you know there are no nasty surprises lurking in there.
So knowledge is power when it comes to choosing the right CBD oil for your pet. And it sounds like Plant-Based Remedy is a great resource for this because they actually have a whole section on their website dedicated to understanding lab reports and what to look for. Their website is, and I know we've mentioned it before, but it's worth repeating, www.plantbasedremedy.co.uk. Definitely worth a look.
Definitely. Their website is super informative. Okay, so you've found a brand you trust. You've got your high quality CBD oil. The next question is, how do you actually give it to your pet? I can only imagine trying to get my cat to swallow a pill would be interesting, to say the
Yeah, tell
least.
me about it. I've tried the whole hiding it in a treat method with my dog, but he's got a nose for these things, let me tell you. So, what other options are out there?
Well, thankfully, there are a few different approaches you can try. Leaf Organics suggests administering the oil directly into your pet's mouth, ideally on the gums, as this allows for quicker absorption.
Makes sense, but let's be real, some pets are just not going to go for that.
Exactly. If your pet's a bit fussy, mixing the CBD oil into their food is a good alternative, although keep in mind the absorption might be a little slower that way because it has to go through the whole digestion process.
Gotcha. So directly in the mouth for maximum effectiveness, but mixing it with food is a good backup plan for those picky eaters. Are there any other options, though? Like some pets are truly masters of resistance. They are. Leaf Organics does mention one more method, and that's applying the oil to the inner ear. Now, it's not as effective in terms of absorption, but it's something to consider if those other methods just aren't working.
Good to know. Okay, we've covered quite a bit here about the potential benefits of CBD oil, how it interacts with the body, even some tips for choosing the right product. But before we move on, I think it's important to address the elephant in the room, potential side effects.
Absolutely. While both sources we have today do emphasize that CBD oil is generally well tolerated in pets, like with any new supplement, there's always a chance your pet might experience some mild side effects.
So what should pet owners be looking out for? What are some signs that maybe their pet isn't tolerating the CBD oil so well?
The most common ones are drowsiness, dry mouth, and in rare cases, a slight decrease in blood pressure. That's why starting with a low dose is really important.
That makes sense. Start low and slow, see how they react. And I can't emphasize this enough. Always, always consult with your vet throughout this process.
100%. They can help tailor a plan specifically for your furry friend. Now, speaking of dosage, that's another big question we see a lot. How much CBD oil is the right amount for a pet? Is there some magic formula?
Yeah, like a CBD pet dosage calculator. You just plug in their weight and boom, there's your answer.
I wish it were that simple, but unfortunately, there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. Leaf Organics is very honest about this, stating that finding the optimal dosage for your pet is a very individual process.
Okay, so if there's no magic calculator, where do you even begin?
Leaf Organics recommends a slow and low monitor method. Start with a very small amount, observe how your pet responds over the next few hours, and then adjust accordingly.
So it's about careful observation and adjusting as needed. Kind of like finding the right balance for any new supplement or medication.
Exactly. And the good news is, Plant-Based Remedy has a ton of information on their website, www.plantbasedremedy.co.uk, including dosage charts and guidelines to get you started. They even have a free dosage tracking card you can download, which I know a lot of pet owners find super helpful.
That is super helpful. We'll definitely link to that in the show notes. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive, but we've really only scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore when it comes to specific conditions, the latest research, and even just navigating the world of CBD products.
You're right, we've still got a lot to unpack, so be sure to stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll delve even deeper into the world of CBD oil for pets. Welcome back to our deep dive into CBD oil for pets. I'm really excited to kind of dig a little deeper into the potential benefits, especially for those of us who have, furry friends who are maybe facing some age-related issues.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of amazing to think that something natural could potentially offer them some relief, right?
Yeah.
We left off talking about dosage, and I'm really curious to hear more about those potential benefits, specifically when it comes to things like, let's say, arthritis, one of the most common ailments we see in older dogs. We talked about CBD's anti-inflammatory properties, but how does that actually translate to pain relief?
Right, so Plant-Based Remedy, one of the sources we're looking at today, they actually highlighted a study where 80% of dogs with osteoarthritis, so that's, achy joints, they showed improvement in their pain and mobility after being given CBD oil. Now, it's important to note here that more research is always needed, and this particular study focused specifically on dogs, but still, those initial findings are pretty exciting.
80% is huge. That's a significant number of dogs potentially experiencing a better quality of life.
It really is promising, and it really speaks to CBD's potential for managing that chronic pain. And Leaf Organics, another one of our resources today, they suggest that while CBD might not be a cure, it could be a really valuable tool for improving your dog's comfort, their mobility, allowing them to enjoy walks and playtime even as they get older.
That's what we want for our senior pups to stay active and happy. And, it's not just about physical discomfort either, right? Anxiety is a big one for a lot of dogs, especially as they age. What have plant-based remedy and leaf organics shared about CBD oil and anxiety relief?
They both actually dedicate a lot of space to this topic, which really highlights how prevalent anxiety is in our furry friends. Think about it. They experience the world through these heightened senses, sights, sounds, smells, all amplified. It's no wonder they can get overwhelmed or scared in situations that we might consider totally normal.
That's a really good point. We often forget how much more sensitive they are than we are. So how might CBD oil actually help in those situations?
Well, both sources suggest that CBD interacts with the endocannabinoid system. Remember that balancing system we talked about? And it can potentially regulate the body's stress response. So it's not about masking the anxiety, but rather helping your dog feel calmer, more balanced from within.
So it's not like a sedative, it's not knocking them out. It's more about gently easing that anxious edge.
Exactly, yeah. And Leaf Organics actually points out that while you might see a calming effect, within an hour or so, the real benefits for managing anxiety often come with consistent use. They compare it to taking like a daily vitamin. It's about building up those calming effects over time.
Consistency is key, just like with so many aspects of health and wellness. It's fascinating to see how this natural compound could potentially make such a difference.
It really is. And it's important to remember, too, that every dog is different. Leaf Organics, they stress that finding the optimal dosage and routine for your pet might take a little trial and error, which is why they offer this free dosage tracking card on their website that can help pet owners monitor their dog's progress and make adjustments as needed.
That's incredibly helpful, especially for pet owners who are new to all of this. Speaking of finding what works, are there different ways to actually give CBD oil to your dog? I imagine some pups are a lot more fussy than others.
Oh, absolutely. Some dogs will eat anything you put in front of them. Others, good luck. Leaf Organics, again, they recommend, if you can, placing the oil directly onto the gums as it absorbs quickly through the mucous membranes. However, they do acknowledge that this isn't always realistic.
Especially if you've got a dog who's like terrified of having their mouth touched or they think every hand near their face means a treat is coming.
Exactly. So in those cases, mixing the CBD oil into their food is a great alternative. Just keep in mind that, again, the absorption might be a little bit slower because it has to go through that whole digestive process.
Yeah, gotta love those sneaky additions.
Hmm.
Now, you mentioned earlier that more research is always a good thing, and I'm curious, have plant-based remedy or leaf organics, have they mentioned any specific studies or maybe even like anecdotal evidence, real-life stories that support these claims?
They do. Leaf Organics actually share some really compelling case studies on their website. They talk about this dog that they don't give any names, obviously, for privacy, but this dog had been battling cancer. And I do want to emphasize here, Leaf Organics is very clear that CBD is not a cancer treatment.
Right, of course. So what was CBD oil's role in this case then?
They explained that while it didn't cure the dog's cancer, the owners found that it really helped to manage the dog's discomfort and actually improve their appetite during a really difficult time. They even noticed that the dog just seemed more relaxed, more engaged while they were using the CBD oil.
That's so powerful. Even if it's not a cure, if it can provide some comfort and improve their quality of life during a challenging time, that's huge. Are there any other stories that they shared?
They did. They had another one about a dog with epilepsy. Again, really important to emphasize that CBD is not a cure for epilepsy, but in this case, the owners reported a decrease in the frequency and severity of their dog's seizures after they started giving him CBD oil.
So it's potentially a complementary approach, something to work in tandem with their regular veterinary care to help manage certain conditions.
Exactly. And that's why that conversation with your vet is so crucial. They can help you understand if CBD is appropriate for your pet's specific situation and advise you on any potential interactions with any other medications they might be on.
Absolutely. It's about finding that best possible path for your furry friend, combining your knowledge as an owner with your vet's expertise.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, before we move on, I do want to ask, we've talked a lot about dogs, but what about cats? Is CBD oil safe for our feline friends as well?
That's a great question. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are wondering about that too.
While a lot of the research so far has really focused on dogs, both plant-based remedy and Leaf Organics do say that CBD oil can be safe for cats, as long as, again, you're choosing a high-quality product that's specifically formulated for their needs.
So same principle applies. Start low, go slow, monitor for any reactions.
Absolutely. And if anything, cats can be even more sensitive to new substances than dogs, so that cautious approach is always best. And again, that conversation with your vet is key. They can help you determine the right dosage and monitor for any potential side effects.
Sound advice. It's clear that while there's a lot of promising information out there about CBD oil, responsible use and open communication with your vet are absolutely paramount. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I do have one more kind of burning question.
Hmm.
What about cost? CBD oil doesn't exactly grow on trees, right?
You're right, it can be an investment, especially if you're looking for those high-quality products. But here's the interesting thing. Plant-Based Remedy actually addresses this directly on their website. They've made it a core part of their mission to make natural wellness accessible to everyone, and that includes people with furry family members. They offer a range of products at different price points, and they even have a loyalty program to help make it a bit more affordable.
I love that. I love that they're considering that financial aspect because we all know how expensive pet care can be.
Exactly. And the good news is they haven't compromised on quality. They still prioritize those organic ingredients. Third-party testing, transparent sourcing, it's all there.
That's music to my ears. So for those of you listening who are looking for a reputable, high-quality CBD oil for your pets, definitely check out Plant-Based Remedy at www.plantbasedremedy.co.uk.
They're an excellent resource, and honestly, their website is a goldmine of information. Now, we've covered a lot of ground here, but there are still some really key areas to explore. What about those lingering questions about long-term effects, potential risks, and the future of CBD oil in veterinary medicine?
All important questions and ones that we'll definitely be tackling head-on in the final part of our deep dive. So stay tuned as we wrap up this episode with even more insights and takeaways from Plant-Based Remedy and Leaf Organics. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into CBD oil for pets. We've covered so much already, from potential benefits to practical tips, but I'm sure some of you still have questions.
It's totally understandable. It's a topic that sparks a lot of curiosity, for good reason. We're talking about our furry family members here, so of course we want the best for them, and that means staying informed.
Exactly. So let's jump right into some of the most common questions we see around CBD oil for pets. And as always, we're drawing our insights from those two fantastic resources we've been exploring, Plant-Based Remedy and Leaf Organics, both based right here in the UK. So one question that I see popping up a lot is there a difference between CBD oil that's marketed for humans versus the one specifically for pets? Is that a real difference, or is it just like clever marketing?
That's a great question, and it's something that often causes confusion. The truth is, the CBD itself is the same. Whether it's for humans or pets, it all comes from the hemp plant. The main difference you'll find usually is in the concentration of CBD and sometimes the flavorings they use.
So pet-specific CBD oils might have a lower concentration and like a tasty bacon flavor added in.
Exactly. It's about making it more appealing and easier to administer to our furry friends. However, both Plant-Based Remedy and Leaf Organics stress that no matter what, quality should always be the top priority.
Makes sense. Don't be swayed by like fancy packaging or marketing gimmicks. Choose a brand you trust, like Plant-Based Remedy. They're known for their commitment to quality and transparency. Speaking of quality, another big question is around sourcing and manufacturing. How can pet owners be sure that the CBD oil they're buying is actually safe and effective?
Right, and that's where those lab reports we talked about earlier become really important. Reputable companies, Plant-Based Remedy included, they'll have their products tested rigorously by independent labs. These tests check for things like purity, potency, how much CBD is actually in there, and the absence of any harmful substances, like pesticides or heavy metals.
So it's kind of like a stamp of approval from a trusted third party.
Exactly. It's about transparency and accountability. When a company is willing to put those lab reports out there for everyone to see, that's a really good sign. And Plant-Based Remedy, they actually have a whole section on their website, www.plantbasedremedy.co.uk, that's dedicated to explaining how to read and understand lab reports. Super helpful if you're the kind of pet owner who wants to get into the nitty-gritty.
I love that. It's so important to have resources like that. It really shows that they prioritize transparency and want to empower pet owners to make informed choices. Now, I want to touch on something we mentioned earlier that I know can be a bit confusing, the legality of CBD for pets. It's still a bit of a gray area, especially here in the UK.
Yeah, you're right. It is a bit nuanced, and it's important to stay up to date on those regulations. As we said, the UK's Veterinary Medicines Directorate, the VMD, They haven't specifically authorized any pet-specific CBD products.
Okay, so what does that actually mean for pet owners who are considering trying CBD?
Essentially, while CBD itself isn't illegal, those products that are specifically marketed for pets kind of fall into a bit of a gray area. But the good news is it is completely legal to give your pet CBD oil if it's been prescribed by your vet.
Got it. So it really highlights the importance of having that open communication with your veterinarian. They can guide you towards the legal options, make sure the product's appropriate for your pet's specific needs.
Absolutely.
Speaking of specific needs, we've talked a lot about the general benefits of CBD oil, but I'm curious, what about specific conditions? Are there any insights into how CBD oil might be able to help with things like seizures or anxiety in pets?
Definitely. Leaf Organics, they actually highlight a few specific conditions where pet owners have reported seeing some really positive results with CBD oil. For example, some pet owners with dogs who have epilepsy have found that CBD oil can help to reduce the frequency and intensity of seizures. Now, it's important to stress here that CBD is not a cure for epilepsy, but it could be something to explore in conversation with your vet, of course, as a complementary approach alongside traditional treatment.
Right, so not about replacing those conventional treatments, but rather exploring all the options and working with your vet to find that best possible path for your pet.
Absolutely.
What about anxiety? We touched on it a little bit earlier, but could you elaborate a bit more on how CBD might be able to help pets who are prone to anxiety or stress?
Sure. So both Plant-Based Remedy and Leaf Organics suggest that CBD can interact with the endocannabinoid system. Remember, that's that balancing system we talked about. And it can actually have a calming effect on the nervous system. The ECS plays a huge role in things like mood regulation, stress response, all of that. So CBD, by interacting with the system, might be able to help reduce those feelings of anxiety, promote relaxation, just improve their overall well-being.
It's pretty incredible to think that a natural compound like CBD could potentially have that kind of impact on our pets' mental and emotional well-being.
Mm,
And again, it's not about masking the symptoms, it's about actually addressing what might be going on at a deeper level.
exactly.
Okay, before we officially wrap up our deep dive, I do want to touch on one more important aspect, and that's the potential for side effects. Now, while we've emphasized that CBD oil is generally well tolerated in pets, I think it's important to acknowledge that there's always a possibility, right?
Absolutely. Like with any supplement, any medication, there's always a chance of side effects, even if they tend to be mild. Both Leaf Organics and Plant-Based Remedy, they do list some of the potential side effects, which can include things like drowsiness, a little bit of dry mouth, and in some cases, some gastrointestinal upset.
So again, it comes back to start low, go slow, watch your pet carefully, and of course, if you have any concerns, talk to your vet.
Exactly. And it's always good to remember that every single pet is different. What works for one dog or cat might not work for another. So it's about finding that right dosage, that right routine through trial and error that suits your pet's individual needs.
So well said. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. It's about working with your vet, paying attention, and figuring out what works best for your furry friend.
Well, I feel like we've covered so much ground today. We've explored the potential benefits, we've talked about how to choose a quality product, addressed those common questions, even delved into some of the legal considerations. It's been great. It's such an important conversation to have, and I hope our listeners feel more informed and empowered to advocate for their pets and make the best choices for them.
Me too. And remember, if you're looking for a trustworthy source of information, high-quality products, Plant-Based Remedy is a fantastic resource. You can find them online. Their website is www.plantbasedremedy.co.uk.
Their website's amazing, packed with information.
Mhm.
They really are passionate about helping pets live their healthiest, happiest lives.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the world of CBD oil for pets. We'll be back soon with another episode exploring a new topic in the world of pet wellness. Until then, keep those tails wagging.
I hope you enjoyed our show. And if you are interested in any of the topics covered in this podcast, check out the website for more information, including any discount codes. And as always, thanks for listening.